Welcome back, Kaiju fans. Today we're going to be looking at the brand new Movie Monsters series, Godzilla 2017, or the Godzilla from the upcoming animated movie, Godzilla Monster Planet. To start things off, we'll take a look at the tag he comes with. And here it is. It is just the poster that we got for the movie. And then it says Godzilla 2017 down here. Then the back, it has that cutout spine design that we've gotten with all of the tags lately. Pretty cool. It says Movie Monster Series right there. And on the inside, it says Godzilla 2017 with the cutout like we're used to. Definitely cool tag. I'm not really a fan of the trend that they've begun with Shin Godzilla, where they take just the movie poster, not an actual image of the monster from the movie or the show or whatever, and put it on the front, because this is the exact same tag that the Servum figure has, and then all of the different forms of Shin Godzilla have the same tag too. So it gets kind of confusing once you have a bunch of the same tag with minor differences. At least this one has this Godzilla 2017 label down here, and then the Servum has it say Servum. So that's really the only difference, but it's still a cool tag. I can't complain too much. I mean, it's a tag. It's going to go in a folder of mine and stay there. So that's going to be it. Moving on to the figure itself, I guess we can just start out with the color, because it's the most obvious thing. The entire figure itself is cast in a matte green color that represents his plant identity from the movie. And hopefully I'll be able to show you guys this. But if we take a closer look, it might get kind of shaky here. You can see it on the head. This is actually covered, well, it's cast in a glitter vinyl. It's like micro glitter. It's not like full-size glitter, so it's just like little speckles of shiny silver that comes through, which is really cool. And then there is some darker green lowlights around the figure. And then on the chest, once I get this to focus again, there we go. There is black ingrained in the detail on the front there. And then on the toes and the fingers, there is a metallic blue that is over top of those. So they get a little bit of a shine to them, and then they're a blue color, which is different. It's different. He has his bright blue eyes. They're so tiny, they're hard to see. The paint on that actually kind of bleeds out and around, so that's kind of disappointing, but quality control issues. And then the spines have the same kind of metallic blue coloring on them, which makes them stand out. They're pretty cool. And then the tail appears to be slightly darker the farther you go down. So definitely a pretty simple color scheme, but it's pretty unique, so I'm a fan of that. Moving on to his detail, he definitely captures the design of this strange plant Godzilla pretty exceptionally. We have the very, very muscled and stylized appearance of the skin that has all of these ripples and strands and kind of like viney appearance to them, all the way down, starting from the neck going down to the legs, and it's all captured pretty well. There's not a bunch of like design loss. They actually get pretty in-depth down towards the bottom there that you can see. And then the front has the kind of almost like plated look that the 2014 design had. That's captured pretty well, and then the paint really brings out the differences there. He has his little tiny dog looking head. It's really, really narrow and kind of elongated, so it's different, but that's brought out very nicely. And then his spines are, well, they look like leaves. That's what they need to do. And that looks really good. The spines up here are cast into the body mold. These ones are a separate mold, and then they go back to the body down here. And then it's one of the things that I noticed with this figure is that the middle row is not the longest row of spines. It's actually the row on this side is the longest row of spines. So that's definitely a different design for this particular Godzilla compared to the ones we've seen in the past. Moving on to the tail, it's like a quick observation. I do believe this is the first Godzilla that the tail is not broken off into horizontal, or I guess you call them vertical sections, kind of like the seal right here. There would be lines that demonstrate the articulation of the suit or, character. But this one is different. It doesn't have that. It has these weird kind of slashes that go this way, and it looks different. It really stands out next to other Godzilla designs being like that. So that's definitely a difference, and the figure captures that pretty well. And then the spines on the tail are all pretty big, so there's no real design loss there, being Movie Monster Series just a vinyl figure. And then the 3 rows of spines stop right here at the end of the tail, and it goes a single row going to this smoothed out point. My only complaint here is that the design of the monster looks like this is supposed to be like a big spear tip, but on this figure it's very like rounded and blunt and not really that impressive. So that's really it for the design. Well, I guess we could look at the feet really quick. The feet are super long, like they need to be, and they're very tree trunky. And then the toenails are very long and stretched out, and then the hands too are pretty big for the design. They're pointed straight down, so really cool design. Figure captures it very nicely. So that's going to be it for the detail. Moving on to articulation, it's pretty basic for this Bandai Godzilla. You have the arms, they go 360, nothing special. The legs will go 360 as well. Not that they would look decent in very many poses. And then the last thing is that the tail will go all the way around as well. So just very basic Bandai vinyl articulation, nothing crazy. If you're looking for crazy, go get the Monster Arts version of this guy. Up next, we'll take a look at him with some other Godzillas. So we can start out comparing him to good old Shin Godzilla, since we just got them. And as you can see, they're relatively the same height. The Monster Planet Godzilla definitely takes up more space because he's a larger Godzilla. The only thing that Shin really has an advantage on is the length of tail, which should be expected. And you can really see the differences in designs of these Godzillas. So these look pretty good next to each other. I'm not going to complain. They're, the 2 most recent designs from Toho, so they look kind of cool next to each other, seeing the real drastic changes between 1 year of Godzilla, basically, and then, of course, the color palette shift where we have metallic greens and blues, and then matte blacks and reds. Here it is next to the NECA Godzilla 2014, and then the suit of Godzilla, or design of Godzilla, I guess I would say, for better terms, that everyone seemed to be comparing this Godzilla to at first, saying that it looks like an older version of this Godzilla, and you can kind of see where that claims come from, but there is quite a significant amount of changes. The feet, for one thing, are extremely longer, and the spines are kind of similar, but these are more rugged and sharp, where these are meant to look like leaves. And I guess the placement of the arms on the shoulders are pretty similar, and then the length of tail are similar, but still very different designs. And then the Monster Planet figure obviously has a little bit of height over the NECA Godzilla 2014. Here he's next to a little bit of a smaller figure. This is the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 1954, modern versus the original, and you can tell that this figure is gigantic compared to this one. Say this one is a little bit more hunched over, but even standing up completely straight, he's still pretty significantly smaller, but nonetheless, they will still look pretty cool standing next to each other, being a clash of old versus new. And then the last thing I wanted to compare would be the special color version Godzilla 2000 Millennium by SH Monster Arts. And the reason I want to compare these two is because if you missed it in a lot of the breakdowns and trailers and my old hypothesis on what this Godzilla's design is going to look like, this was actually the stand-in that they used for playing out scenes where Godzilla was going to be relative to like the geographical locations on the planet they're designing, or the theoretical digital set. And this is what they used as their stand-in. So I'm kind of surprised it didn't end up looking a lot more like this, because this is what they were basing everything off of, but just as kind of like a fun thing. That's what they were basing everything off of, and this is the final product. And then I guess I should have done this first, but here he is next to the Servum figure from the upcoming movie, and you can tell that the Servum wasn't necessarily intended to be in scale. The Servum is pretty huge and wide in comparison when he's supposed to be just a little dude. One thing I didn't notice until I actually got these in my possession is that the servum is a dark blue in comparison to this figure. All the pictures I saw made it look like that they were the same color, but this is actually a very blue color, and this is a very green. So definitely cool, and you can see how they kind of size up together. Definitely not in scale with each other, but there's no way they could have been. Final thoughts on the figure. I am impressed, so to speak, of the quality that this ended up being because of the way recent Bandai vinyls have been skipping out on the quality that we used to get, I'd say, with the earlier releases in the Movie Monster series and then back in the Tokaiju series. We didn't have any lacked detail, where we didn't have super glossy paints, and everything just looked a little bit better. This is kind of getting back to that level of detail, but not quite there yet. So I'm impressed with what they've done. Could it have been improved? Yes, they couldn't have made it glossy in random spots it wasn't supposed to be. The tail could have had some adjustments to it, but I guess if I was really looking for that level of detail, I should have just got the monster arts, but I didn't think that was necessary. But I'm happy with it. The articulation is fair for a Bandai vinyl. The size is pretty good. It's pretty large for a 6-inch scale vinyl. And then the price of being, between $15 and $20, depending on where you get it pre-release, as in pre-orders, importing it from Japan, and then $20 to $25 if you're buying it from US retailers. It's not bad. It's pretty fair. And then going in with the servum, you have like a nice little set of figures that you can display somewhere. So I'm a fan. I can't really complain too much. The design's been growing on me. I didn't know how I felt at first, but I'm okay with it. The figure does justice to the design, and that's what I was interested in. The paint is decent. There's not much paint, so there's not much to get wrong other than the bleeding on the eyes could have been resolved slightly, but whatever. That's not my. I don't have room to really complain about that. It's a cheap Bandai vinyl. It's whatever. But that's going to be it today, guys. I definitely recommend going and picking one of these up as soon as you possibly can if you're interested in it, because I'm sure that this is going to suffer the exact same fate that the Shin Godzilla vinyls did, where they're going to sell out everywhere super fast, and they're going to be jacked up in price, and you're going to have to pay more than the figure is worth to get your hands on it before a re-release hits the stores, and who knows when or if that's going to happen. So if you're interested in getting these, find some place to buy them as soon as possible. The place I bought mine from is already all sold out, so that doesn't really help. I'd check eBay, Amazon, and then places like Big Bag Toy Store if they got imports in. But that's going to be it, guys. Let me know if you plan on getting this figure, if you're getting it to serve them with it too. And then, as always, have a nice day.